Good morning. It's Monday, November 9th, 2020, at 9 a.m. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to review the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Santos, a second by Nathan. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 3 is a public hearing on a proposed ordinance allowing the use of all-terrain and off-road utility vehicles on portions of Muscatine County roads. So we are in a public hearing now. Anyone want to speak for or against the proposed resolution or I heard someone on the please state your name and address and position.
Laura Curtis Kramer, 1670 North Mulberry Road, Muscatine.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Did you have a comment on the proposed ordinance?
No, I just was listening in.
Okay. Did anyone else, I don't know how many call-ins we have this morning, Bill.
We have a couple people on the web, and then we have the one person on the phone.
Okay. Anyone wishing to make a comment on the proposed ordinance?
Move to close public hearing.
Okay, so we have a motion to close the public hearing by Santos.
Second.
And a second by Scott. This is a roll call vote. Santos?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
And I vote aye. The public hearing is now closed. Next item is discussion of possible action to approve an ordinance allowing the use of all-terrain and off-road utility vehicles on portions of Muscatine County roads on the first of 3 readings.
I would move to approve.
I have a motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Santos. Is there any discussion?
Just that, I think that we did a lot of good effort in regards to bringing different groups from our departments, including the county engineer, the county attorney, heads of departments, and I feel like we've done a good effort in trying to make this ordinance approved, and I hope that the county residents are able to utilize this. We're open for feedback, and as we start moving forward on this, that we're going to review this after a year, and hopefully we can continue to have this ordinance either expanded or continue to be successful in the county.
Yeah, I think the board has to keep an open mind moving forward on this in regard to, it's hard to be able to look into a crystal ball and cover all the issues that may come up from this. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on this, and as Santos says, a year from now, just have a review and the input from the law enforcement and so on and so forth, and may have to tweak something, may not, we'll see. But I think the board made a full effort in trying to utilize that for the people of the county, and we'll see what happens moving forward.
Yeah.
I would just say my preference would be not to have restrictions, because I think it could create confusion, but I think this is a far side better than not having the ordinance at all, so I'll support it.
And I would just make a comment on process here. So this is we're required on any ordinance to have 3 readings, and this is the first of the 3 readings. So we will be scheduling, generally every week we will have a reading. So if anybody is unable to attend and has input on the ordinance, they can certainly do that. Okay, so I have a motion by Scott and a second by Santos. This is a roll call vote. Scott? Aye. Santos?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries. I will note for the record that Doug Holliday is ill today and not attending. Okay, item number 4 is discussion and possible action to approve or disallow 2020 family farm credit applications as recommended by the Muscatine County Assessor. And I believe we have Mr. Randy Spees with us this morning at the Assessor's Office.
Yeah, I would make a recommendation to approve the family farm applications as we've submitted to the office. We did have one that needs to be disallowed. Jason and Jessica Schroeder, they actually had sold the farm before they had signed the papers, so it changed names and the deeds, we'll have to have the new purchaser, the new buyer signed up for the November 1st next year. So we've got a letter for them to notify them that it's gonna be disallowed, and we've called them and they know the situation, so they're fully aware of it.
Okay. All right,
I'll move to approve.
so I have a motion by Santos,
Second.
second by Nathan. Any further discussion?
Thanks, Randy.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Okay, item number 5 is a discussion of possible action to approve an Iowa CESF grant in the amount of $90,952.71 with Chief Deputy Ardith Slate and Jail Administrator Matthew McCleary. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Doing well.
So, the first round of the CESF grant was given to us to put the new courthouse in the jail for federal and state inmates, which the federal government, the U.S. Marshal's Office is very, very happy with. That grant in the first round was $18,000, and it has all been spent and all the equipment is in at the jail and is operating very effectively. So this grant is a little bit larger in our request, but it also is for the jail, and it will help in the medical field in regards to personnel and equipment. So you have been submitted the entire grant application in regards to a full-time RN, to COVID testing kits, as well as the vital monitoring stations that can be moved throughout the jail. So if we do have an inmate who is affected by COVID or is ill, that we wouldn't have to move that inmate throughout the facility or even maybe out of the jail itself. So we're talking about security issues here, as well as making sure that we are in compliance with ACH guidelines, because being in compliance with ACH guidelines is something that we find to be very important, simply because if there is a medical issue at the jail, they're going to stand behind us legally. And so the liability of the county is reduced by making sure that we are in compliance with ACH requirements. So, I mean, I can go on and on about this grant, but you do have the packet in front of you. All the numbers are there. Unless you have questions for me, I'm just asking that you allow us to submit this. Today is my deadline to submit it. We would submit it and know by December 15th if the grant was awarded.
I'll move to approve. Thank you.
Motion by Nathan. I did have a couple of just questions about the staffing. So this, it looked like the bulk of this money is staffing. There's a bit of equipment in there, and I would think after the equipment, then that's the jails to operate and own. And what about the staffing? Is there a plan? Would this be additional staffing? Let's say that, you know, this is basically COVID response dollars. Are you anticipating to maintain that staffing level, or do you see that as a change?
We sure would like to remain that, with that staffing position. It's ACH's or suggestion that, you know, the hours that we spend on medical, they're suggesting that we need another person.
Mhm.
And I know this has been brought before you, and this is just one way to at least see that we can cover at least 1 year with this grant. And then if that requires laying somebody off because, you know, we don't have the funds to continue to support that position, that will have to be a decision that we'll have to make.
Well, I think we've been very pleased with the jail operations, and we want to make sure we have it staffed properly to do things. And we had that discussion, I think, did we not, maybe I'm mistaken, Matt, you might be able to help me a little. We did make a little bit of adjustment to nursing staff in the jail in this budget cycle. I don't remember and we'll have the budget conversations here in another month or so, or 2 months, I guess it is now.
What I've been approved to put in is between 112 and 168 hours of nursing staff.
Okay.
I would add, you know, that first round, to the chief deputy's comments earlier about that first round of grants that was approved, putting in those virtual courtrooms kind of made us the go-to facility for the U.S. Marshals. So
Great.
because of that, our numbers are up, if you want to look at our numbers. And they're not always in the best health when they come in on those initial This would put us in a position to succeed going forward.
Good, good.
One thing I also wanted to say is we realize that this money, the 18,000 that came in, the 58,000 that came in from the federal government, if this 90,000 comes in, obviously, that's not in our budget. And so it comes in on the revenue side, but we don't have, we didn't budget for that kind of money to be going out. So we know we're gonna have to do a budget amendment in the spring, but we also know that that revenue stream continues to come in from the federal government and from the state government to allow, the coverage for this. But we know we're gonna have to do that.
Okay, very good.
I also just wanted to note that the jail has been trying to meet those nursing hours by hiring part-time staff. And frankly, we're really struggling with that, finding enough of the people who want to work there and getting the hours in. So hopefully offering a full-time position will get us to a
Well,
point
I know
where
our
we're stable.
experience just in the jail staff in general, when it was highly populated with part-time, just didn't work. We've been able to cut our turnover significantly and get more, better staffing levels, I think, just by going to full-time people. So I think that's a good decision. Okay. I have a motion on the floor by Nathan.
I'll second.
And I have a second by Scott. Any further discussion?
Thanks,
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Thank you this morning.
Might be my last one. Maybe.
Now, wait a minute.
I'll think of something to get you back in here.
Bye. Okay, item number 6 are items with the county engineer Keith White. Item 6A is discussion and possible action to approve various utility permits. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning. We have one permit this morning, which is from Eastern Iowa Light and Power, RAC of Wapello, Iowa. And they are requesting to bore across 231st Street from a new pole at 2086 231st Street. And it's a service for a building that's being constructed there.
Okay, I have a motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Santos. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
How about present, that's a client.
Okay. So Nathan is recusing himself from the vote. So we have three with Nathan recusing, so motion carries. Okay, item B is discussion of possible action to approve the 2020 Weed Commissioners Report. I always so look forward to that report, Keith.
Right, I think you should have a copy of Bruce Bryant's annual weed commissioners report. This is required by the state.
Does that require the name for that too?
Is it the Weed Commissioner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah, I think it's a,
Is that the really,
That's what's in the code,
is it, okay, so I wasn't sure.
weed commissioner. I've often noted that, this county versus the more rural, less population, more farmers, weeds are a big thing there. They're big enough here, but I mean, they are very passionate about weeds.
I do have a question, Keith.
Yes, sir.
I've looked through this and I don't see Russian olive listed on here unless it goes by a different name. I think that's something that need to be aware of, the way that particular plant is as aggressive as that plant is. I mean, and I see it in a tremendous amount of it in the ditches. Now, if you keep it mowed and so on and so forth, it's fine. But I mean, this private ground and having farms of my own, the amount of that Russian olive on the edges and that, it's very aggressive. So if it's not a problem, it's gonna be.
I thought it was on there.
Is that the Russian knapweed?
Oh, okay.
Is that the same thing? I don't know.
it's a bushy plant, it wants to get along the
I don't know if that's
edges
the
of
same thing.
No,
I
I
know there
it's
was
the
a Russian
Russian
one on it,
apple,
but I
it's
don't
the same
remember if it
thing.
was that, but so I wasn't sure when you said
Mhm.
that. Might be something,
Anyway,
I'm not a weed guy.
That's my 2 cents.
Not anymore.
Leave that one alone. Okay, all right, so I'd accept a motion, I don't think I have one, right? No.
That's different, yeah.
I'll make a motion to
I
approve.
have a motion by Santos,
I'll second.
second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Okay, item C is discussion of possible direction regarding Keokuk Avenue. I don't know if we have anybody on the phone, or we have some folks in here. Yeah, yeah, very good, okay. So Keith, well, we could just, I think we've had a couple of brief discussions about this, and we've certainly had a number of communications. So Keokuk Avenue, just for those listening in from home, we've had that gated and closed due to some washout issues and drainage issues for several years, couple, 2, 3 at least. And it's been kind of a source of issues for quite some time, and I think it's incumbent upon the board to make a decision, give the engineer some direction as to what we think we need to do with Keokuk. So I think we've heard a number of comments on it, that there are a few local landowners that do use that for access. I think we have one gentleman that needs to pass through there. He's got another property that he has a field entrance down off of Salisbury that he utilizes. We have 3 homes in that area, 2
There's 3 homes on that road.
on the road.
I am the probably most affected.
You're Terry,
I'm
down on the
Yeah, I'm
bottom.
at the bottom of the hill, which, during the winter months,
Oh, yeah, sure.
during the winter months,
If you would, just for the record, so Betty gets it, would you give your name and address?
Terry Holiday, 1791 Keokuk Avenue.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
I live at the bottom of the hill, and during the winter months, I come out and have to go up. And even with new tires on the vehicle, have trouble getting up there. When the school bus was picking up my kids, they usually went down the hill because they did not want to go up the hill. And if there was more than about 4 or 6 inches of snow, they would ask us to try to bring them down to Salisbury and pick the kids up, which that is a tough road to get up that hill. When there's snow on the gravel roads, it's not graded down to the gravels to lose all our gravel and shove it in the ditches. So it gets packed, and that's just like ice. Last year, the county did a lot better job. Usually it would be the day after a snowstorm, before they would get down there and grade that road. They did, but it was about 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And they was there probably after every snowfall. Did a good job with that, but so I leave at 4:30 in the morning to go to work, and that's my issue getting out of there.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of mail deliveries that doesn't come because people come the other way. That's the way their map source takes them. Everything's ordered nowadays online. That's another issue with the road. My biggest concern is just getting out. It'd be different if I built a house there after the road was closed. Then I've been there for 30 years.
And currently, there's gate access key, and then local landowners all have keys.
Where's it gated right
Or
now?
can get keys.
I don't have one. It's gated just down from my
So north of you, just a
drive
bit?
north of me, and I used to, if I wanted to go up that hill, I would go down to that creek, turn around to get a run at it, or even possibly a little further. So, and I was going down, backing up at the gate just to try to get up the hill and just barely make it up. And it's not something I want my wife to be
Surely.
spinning out halfway up the hill, trying to back down, slide off in the ravine. And, there's issues there.
So what would you like to see?
I would like to see the road open back up. I talked to the engineer about it. He's not so sure that the culverts would handle it. He's thinking something more bigger, like a box. And there's a lot of water that drains down there from a lot of acres. When you have 10-foot long logs 6/8 inch of diameter washed onto the county road, you know, there's a significant amount of water
Well,
coming
you're probably getting stuff washed over onto your drive, I would think as well, right? From that hill?
in. I have a bridge. I did have a smaller bridge,
Okay, yeah. I'm
and
looking
I
at-
broke through that because it was just wooden. I put culverts myself, 3 rows of culverts to get to my house, and a 7-inch rain washed down, plugged that up, took my whole drive out. So now I have 2 semi flatbeds welded together and sheeted with 1/4-inch diamond plate so that I can get across it.
Good engineering.
4 yards of concrete footings on each end of it. I've not had an issue with anything since that.
Okay.
And another point would, I mean, I don't know, say that all the delivery people having problems getting there. If there was an emergency call for my house, would the fire or response personnel come in from the other way and then have to wait another 5 minutes for them to drive around to get back up there?
I don't know for a fact, but I believe that our emergency dispatch has all road closings and detours.
If it was
They're aware
closed
of all
down
that.
permanently, they probably would know that, but in the current
Well,
situation.
the engineer posts any temporary closings, they get that as well, so they're very much aware, but you never, you know, it's just, whether the emergency responders always get that or pay attention, that's always another question.
So it's brought up that it's in a floodplain and they're just flooding over it every year when the river is up high, but it doesn't really wash that road out, it just makes traffic where cars can't drive down, and instead of putting gates up, signs up, the county had installed a sign they could flip down or flip up saying water over road, as I think there is one going down another road up there, Lindell, to let people know if there's water over the road, to minimize their having to come out and put place signs and everything. So that seemed to be working fine. Most people didn't drive through it. I still have a lot of people come down wanting to go to the park, and they turn around. I don't know if they're unhappy, they turn around and they peel out of my driveway and make a nice rut, which causes more erosion.
Yeah, and you know, I know we've
It's just
heard
a
from
pain.
other residents that, you know, a road closure, then there's dumping problems, illegal dumping
Yeah,
problems.
that happened just a little while ago.
Yeah, sure, anytime you have you know, unfortunately a dead-end road, people find that as a opportunity to dump garbage, and we deal with it all the time. Okay,
That's all I have.
okay, thank you, Terry.
I have one question.
Sure.
That field that is just north of your, I believe it's straight north of your,
Yeah,
driveway that goes out to Keokuk, who owns that field?
just north of my driveway.
Yeah,
I own that down to that creek.
you own down to
And then
the
just a
creek.
little past that creek.
Okay,
I own a little bit, so if I were to mow down there or get access, I can drive a tractor through the ditch if I had a key to the gate. Otherwise, I have to drive 4 miles around to go that extra 50 foot in my property to get down there and mow that or do anything else.
Scott, north of there, it's Burkhofer and Miller.
it's, okay, so you got just a little bit on the other side of that.
I own a little bit there by the driveway, and from where the creek's at, that north is all Miller's.
Yeah, okay. I was at the meeting previously, when Mr. Miller spoke about having to drive around to mow or maintain his CRP. So Mr. Miller's field must be beyond the creek to the north?
Just past the creek, there is entrance for him to get to his field, and there's a drainage ditch that comes down and divides his field in half.
Yes.
He has another field entrance
Yes.
there. So he has to get through that gate to get down.
Yeah.
To get to his second field entrance.
Okay, I didn't have that correct in my mind, when Mr. Miller talked in that,
He just would need a
that,
key
that,
to that.
that piece that's next to your driveway, that's the piece I thought he had to drive around to maintain,
No,
but it's not.
he would just need a key
He
to
would
that
just,
north.
he would
gate,
come
is all
from the
he would
north,
need.
he would come from the north,
Yeah,
wouldn't
so
he,
he
no matter
don't
what?
really- He doesn't have to drive around.
Okay,
Terry, you had mentioned when you sent us an email, you had some opinions of what you thought could possibly be addressed as well too. You had mentioned some things about drainage tile or pipes or whatnot. I can't remember exactly the details around that you had thought, and I know that we had also asked our county engineer to follow up on that as well too. Right now, you said there was 4 pipes or 3 pipes?
There was
You know, I
4,
think you had
originally
some
there was
comments.
3 18-inch ones, and then 4, I believe they're about 30-inch ones were placed in there above it. The 2 to the south they were longer pipes. They have been silted in for several years. So there's only been 2 30-inch pipes pretty much handling it, or 1.5, and they finally have just silted in from all the sand, and then it floods the ditches and goes over the road. So if they were all replaced with 430s, yeah, it would last for a while, but it's probably gonna silt back in. I mean, my excavating of the creek before that, removing any sand, is just helping the county, is because that's just gonna go down and plug up the tubes. If there was a bigger tube or a box culvert, it probably would work better. But that's a lot more cost. If the tubes were put in there and there was sand to even come down, the county may have to clean that ditch out every couple of years or something. It's gonna be a maintenance. Just with the sand coming down. There's a lot.
My guess would be on any type of major flooding event, there would have to be ditch cleaning done. Would that be a safe guess on my behalf, Keith? I mean, with the amount of silt and that would drop in the ditch area, or would that be incorrect on my behalf?
Well, no, there probably would be some. I mean, the bigger concern is it topping the road and taking the road out.
Can you give just a little, and I don't wanna,
No, good.
can you give Keith a little account, a little history for us and for the public in regard to the amount of work that's been done and so on and so forth on this? Because it doesn't sound like this is a situation where you're gonna be able to put in another pipe or a box culvert and that's gonna solve the problem, is a feeling that I'm getting.
Yeah, without pulling it up, either I know in the 50s there was a bridge in there, 26-footer, and somewhere in there that got removed. You know, when you build a bridge on a river and you build it during low water, the contractor's out there with a 48-inch pipe carrying the entire river, the one that ends up flooded a mile wide. I mean, that's the way the flows work. So, of course, culverts will carry the normal low flow. It doesn't carry these big rain events or flood events. Anyway, at some point they went to culverts, and yeah, there's at least 2 rows, meaning one down lower and then a row built on top of those of larger culverts. But they're just kind of a constant maintenance nightmare. The soils in that area, they yield up lots and lots of sand, plug things up. So when we had looked at the situation, we feel doing that again just puts us back into the constant maintenance situation. So we feel our options are to keep it closed or to put in some sort of a structure that will work or that we feel will work. And I just want to read the facts to you and let you know where we're coming from. A 12-foot by 6-foot box satisfies a 10-year event. That's the minimum out on gravel roads. Going to a Q25 it requires a twin barrel structure and really increases the cost. But we had a similar situation going down to 152nd years ago, right as you get in the curve there by Beatty's, that we had a row of culverts plugging up, etc. And then that had been a bridge. We placed a 12 by 6 there in 2010. We've had no issue since. So we expect similar results if we did something like that on Keokuk. If it does silt in, a 12x6, you can get in with a walk behind skid steer or skid loader and clean the thing out. You know, the 152nd Street project cost $130,000 in 2010. Today's dollars, we're thinking 150 to 200,000. Plus, we'd need to buy probably another 5 or 10,000 worth of right of way. So that's what we think if we're going to open the thing and expect to keep it reasonably open. That's the kind of dollars we think we're looking at there, and that would be our recommended solution if we go that way.
What would the 25-foot one cost? The other one that you
The
mentioned?
twin barrel.
The twin barrel, yeah.
Oh, we didn't do a number on that, but you're probably another 50,000 above that.
Okay.
We think the 12x6 would work. And again, those sorts of dollars, then it needs to go in the construction program.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we have anything in the 5-year plan for this?
No,
It's not currently in there.
no.
I wonder what the traffic is going to the park down there on Keokuk.
Well, there's
None right now.
There hasn't been for a couple of years, so it's.
It was closed in June of 19, but prior to that, there's quite a bit.
We've had quite a few comments about that.
Well,
I say, call engineers.
my real concern about this is just like when we put that bridge in, how many ever dollars that was, $1 million or whatever that was.
Yes, $1.5 million.
Yeah, you know, the reason I voted for that bridge back then was on one main reason. And the main reason I voted for that was because that has a river landing access at Salisbury for river rescue. And otherwise you've got to go to Moscow or down to Doherty to be able to access the river for any type of water help, I'll call it. And that was the main reason that I voted for that. And it wasn't to make sure that people could camp down along the river. That was not the reason. The reason was the safety driven out there. And I'm just not 100% in my mind that you need to spend another, that would be the only reason to keep Keokuk open, in my opinion, would be able to shorten the access to water rescue and so on and so forth there because of just the way the whole thing is set up. That's just my opinion.
Keith, is there any way we could clean those existing 18-inch pipes out?
They're gone.
Oh, they're gone.
They're gone.
I don't know if they're gone, the 30s are gone, all but one.
Yeah, but
The 18s were below them.
This is a whole new project starting from scratch is what this is, pretty much.
Yes. I mean, you know, the other option, which we think will result in similar results to every other year, is put a culvert or two back in there and wait for it to plug up or wash out.
So the big issue on culverts, if I'm just reading, is just all the maintenance. When you have a small culvert, they're very difficult to maintain, to get the sand, because this is an area that just is
Right.
prone to silt in with sand big
Yep,
time.
yep.
And that's the big issue with the culvert, is getting the sand out of them.
Gotcha.
When you say culvert, are you saying like a drain tile pipe? Is that like a galvanized,
Yes.
ribbed type of a pipe, or are you saying an actual concrete?
CMP, corrugated metal.
Okay. And that would be a 18, 24 inch or something that you wouldn't.
So the last go around, I believe, was 4 30-inch, and that's not going to carry much of a storm.
like I say, 2 of them's been plugged up for several, like a dozen years. So you only had 2 of them flowing, and I don't know, I have been there since '91. Once I saw a county excavator down there cleaning the ditches out, so.
So if we were to
It's
go,
kind of a little bit due to
Yeah.
neglect too. I mean, if the sand has been, it is gonna accumulate, but it's.
Well,
not
Mr.
like-
Holliday, if you hadn't been in our ditch illegally cleaning it, trying to make the water go the wrong direction and making it then go over the road, a lot of those issues would not have happened. You got a letter from the county attorney
I did.
with a cease and desist,
And I
and
did.
you did, and you didn't get charged. But don't say the county's not been there doing maintenance, because that is not the truth.
I have been digging sand out of my creek, and I have been digging some of the sand.
You've been out in the county right away.
I have been digging in the county right away. Before I was informed that I wasn't allowed to do that without a permit. And my opinion, sand coming downhill and me scooping that sand out and cleaning that, I'm not doing anything to plug those up. If anything, I was helping the situation.
Your neighbors that are now, at
Water
least one of
flows
them,
downhill.
supportive of you, were the ones that absolutely wanted you to stop. They said you were down in there, you couldn't even see the top of the
Okay.
cab of your tractor.
Yeah, the-
If there would have been some merit to that, my causing this issue, I believe that the county attorney would have pursued it.
The county attorney let you go on my recommendation, but we can undo that if you wish.
Keith,
And we
I
can
think
visit it again.
for now, let's try to move forward with
Yeah.
solutions here. I think
Let's
our,
try and move forward.
I think that's the
I-
We
effort
get
of,
accused of not doing our job, I'm gonna
I'm just
defend
saying, I'm just saying,
because
I
it's
have
not
not seen
the
it
truth.
cleaned out a lot.
and I understand,
Yeah,
we're,
we're
again,
good with
we're
that.
just wanting to come up with something that, again, we've taken the steps and
And
appreciate.
putting in a couple $100,000, that's a lot of money, I understand that. I don't know what the tubes cost, the 30-inch tubes, but if 3 or 4 of those were put back in, as it existingly was for, and the silt was cleaned from the ditch a little bit,
The
I don't
problem-
think it would be an issue.
The problem with that, it is incredibly high maintenance because of all the wood debris that's gonna come down. And, it doesn't take much for a 4-inch or 6-inch limb, log to come down, get crossways across, and then it catches everything. And in an incredibly short period of time, that flow is reduced to X, whatever X is. And so what you have then is you've got a situation that needs to be checked and maintained literally after every
rain event.
Yeah.
rain event. And it's counterproductive in my mind that by doing that, all you're doing is creating a problem, creating an issue, and creating work. That's what you're doing. If you're going to try to actually solve this problem
Yeah, the box.
with some type of structure,
The 12 by
at
6.
minimum, it will have to be a precast,
12 by 6.
yeah, at minimum, and it should probably be a double, in all honesty,
Cause if you're.
to
The twin barrel?
Yeah.
to be able to handle these, let's say a 10-year rain event or whatever the case may be, and you get a better chance when this wood debris comes down of not having it blocked and having that debris build up, because
I understand that.
it's just impossible to, in my mind, to assume that the workforce of the county needs to check this one
Yeah.
water flow device and see if we gotta get a track hoe out there and get it cleaned after how many ever rain events or whatever. It makes no sense to me,
There's
none
2 tubes
whatsoever.
further down there by Miller's Pond, and there's some like cattle panels or something in front to catch debris, and they do collect stuff from muskrats, grass, sticks, and I stopped myself and cleaned them out, pulled the stuff out. So, yeah, I understand that the tubes will catch stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't work well.
They're all
It doesn't
over,
work well.
they're everywhere,
Yeah.
and they're always a source. I mean, that whole area, you know, quite frankly, for 15 years that I think I've been hearing about it, there's lots of issues with water down there. when was our last major, we've not had a major flood event in that area for a while. What's it been, about 3-4 years?
19 was a FEMA
19?
event.
19?
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe they just get so frequent. Yeah, that's the other thing we're dealing with here is, if you look at our top 10 flood events in Muscatine County, they've happened in the last, we've, 6 of the top 10 in history have been in the last 10 years. So we're getting water faster, more frequently, as our neighbors upriver are solving some of their water problems or pushing them down to us, I guess.
This is probably a crazy question, Keith, but it's about a mile, Mr. Holliday, from your drive south to Bayfield?
Yes, approximately.
Is there any kind of economical way to surface that? I didn't think so, but I'm asking.
Surface it to the.
Well, right now, what I heard you say is your complaint is it's tough to get up because you can't grade the gravel down.
That's a,
Yeah.
about the bottom of the bluff, the hill.
That'll be
Oh,
a lot
pave
more-
up,
that'll be a
yeah.
lot more money.
No, I figured. I'm just asking if there's any kind of
Yeah,
de minimis paving.
I'm not
that can-
supposed to do anything with maintaining or between fence post and fence post, the county right of way, but I would get out with my four-wheeler and run up and down the gravel road to last winter a couple times to try to push some snow off just so I could get up there.
Mhm.
And, I'm not supposed to do that, so I'm kinda stuck.
To answer your question, Nathan, no.
No,
there's
I didn't
no-
think so.
I mean, you're talking $1 million a mile. to
Yep.
pave a
Yep.
road.
Do we have, Keith, would we have any history, so let's say back, pardon me, if we could go back a few years prior to when Keokuk was open, do we have any idea in that area? Are there traffic counts on that or anything?
There are,
So we'd have an idea of what kind of traffic that carried?
yeah.
Okay.
Keith, and you mentioned that the twin barrel would possibly be at least 50K more.
Yes.
And is the twin barrel
We don't think it's necessary.
you don't think so? Okay.
What did we do over on Lindell? We did something over there, right?
We replaced a quite a bit larger bridge with a cast in place twin box culvert.
So we pretty much invested $175,000 more over there,
Probably more like 300.
300,000.
You know, I mean, there's like 3 or 4 homeowners beyond that have no other way out.
Right.
They can't go the other way.
Right. Okay.
If we were to put this on the 5-year plan, would that be something that we could possibly, we'd have to possibly put that out on budget, and if we did the 12x6? Because we don't have this budgeted at all, correct?
What's that?
We don't have this budgeted?
No, there's no, it's not in our 5-year plan right now, so if you did something there,
You'd have to knock something else off.
you'd have to knock something else off or push something else, and that the question is, what would you push and where? Because I think, really where we are for funding is we're pretty much where we are. And, okay.
But then we would have to make a decision, either that or then close the road completely.
Yeah, I think you either decide you keep it, continue as is, or which is closed, right? Which you allow limited access by offering keys and whatever, or you upgrade it, you spend the $150,000 to $200,000. But, I mean, if you look at spending 200,000, I mean, it's hard to even look at that as a decision for me, because I don't know what I'm trading off. I don't know where I'm, cause I know we have a number of other areas in the county where we have issues that we have in our 5-year plan that we're trying to address.
Mr. Holiday, you do have or can get a key to this gate?
I assume I can get one from the county engineer's office or maintenance office.
And with that key, you'd be able to run north up to Salisbury Road, assuming the
Or
road's
south.
clear. No.
Oh, yeah.
No, they removed the culverts, there's just a big opening.
There's nothing there,
4 foot
okay,
deep.
okay.
It's not
It would be a low water crossing, we would call that. Maybe with an ATV or a
An
Jeep.
underwater crossing?
I say I could drive a tractor down through it, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah, it's a people.
one person tried from the north, and she didn't make it.
Is the maintenance going north, to get up out over the bluff that way when you go to work at 4:30?
It's a lot better, it's, Salisbury now is all hard road sealed and, it's salted, so going up there, it's a lot easier to get up that. Plus it's more of a gradual, even though there's curves, it's a little more of a gradual rather than just, you can go right up out there. I mean, it's slick itself too, county truck ended up on its side plowing snow last spring, right there down that hill.
Yeah, 'cause
And my daughter slid off, rolled her car in the ravine several years ago and totaled it out,
yeah,
off into that creek.
I know the area quite well, and it's a tough choice either way.
And my neighbor was not able to make it today, and he was the one that had the problem with moving farm machinery and stuff, and the reason he wanted the road open is to get to the other field, but he just brought home a grain drill, and as he was coming down the road, he said it was a sheriff, so I said a deputy sheriff or something, was going up and had to whoa pretty, because it's a wide piece of equipment, had to whoa down pretty hard. And he's coming around blind corners with farm machinery.
Oh, yeah.
So that's that situation there too.
Can we get those traffic counts before we maybe make that decision? I know we
I
talked
think
about
it would
this.
be, I would like to see kind of the pre-19 kind of what that road has looked like. And Keith, I would assume we would have somewhat of a history of the costs we've incurred on that rough mile of road there.
Somewhat, yeah.
We'd have, kind of when we looked at 152nd, we knew, we're spending 50% more per mile than we are on any road in the county.
But I'd like to see what our options are, what we'd have to take off the plan if we did this. That would be our decision, we wouldn't be putting that on engineering, but, what sort of things we'd be looking at in a trade-off.
Yeah, so the question would be, if you,
What does this cost?
if you said that we wanted to move, if you repair this, what money would be available and where would it come from?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a discussion we'd.
And again, that wouldn't be, I wouldn't want to put Keith in the position of saying, well,
That's not Keith's,
No,
that's
no,
our
just-
issue,
you're right.
yeah. Okay.
I mean, I understand this might take a little time, especially if you guys, might be next year with weather and stuff, or I guess not being allowed in your budget. And I would like to ask, if it is closed yet throughout this winter, if I could get the county to move the gates down at the creek, that would give me another
Some
couple
runway.
100 foot of runaway I could go down there and turn around and try to get out. It's just a matter of moving a couple posts. I asked Keith about it, he said that could be done, and I just want to bring it up.
Okay, so can we, who would get us those Keith, could you get us those traffic counts? Or who would have
I was
those?
sitting here looking at them. On the maps, if it's counted, it's actually a circle, and the DOT only has 98 every 4 up. It's not been counted, they're showing 60 every year, every year that they did it. That's projection, it's probably reasonably accurate.
Say this, and that would be a per day number?
Per day. And it was their last count was in 2018, which was before this was closed, but like Bayfield was counted, Salisbury was counted, and they're projecting what's going in between. They don't typically.
They don't count those
They don't
feeder
count.
roads like that, so
Right.
they're gonna
They're
count
just
the
kinda
other
using
two.
the average between those that possibly go through there, okay.
They had 90 coming in from 22 to Bayfield on Keokuk, and then 60 going on north from Bayfield to Salisbury.
Do you feel that number is somewhat accurate?
Considering they count in the summer, campers
Yeah.
or whoever, I think that was accurate. It's probably more of a peak accurate, but I think it's probably accurate.
Yeah, I would think in the dead of winter or late fall,
But-
you're not gonna get near that traffic. That's pretty much when Salisbury is up and active, that's probably when you get your biggest run of people, I would think.
May through October.
Yeah.
I could see it May through
I think
October, I
campers
certainly
are-
can't see that on the rest of the year at all.
Yeah, a lot of roads like that are 10, 15.
Yeah.
That's, maybe they have a 5, I guess that's pretty much as low as they go, those numbers. Yeah.
So don't wanna put you too much on the spot. The hill coming out of this place, idea of the length and percent of grade?
Do not, I will say it's on the north side, which is much tougher, and it's steep, it's a steep hill.
Yeah, it doesn't get a lot of sun, you know,
Right.
get a lot of, don't get the advantage of a little melt.
That's true.
Okay. All right.
It's maybe 1,000 feet, looks like total driveway to driveway there.
So even if we were to make a decision, we still need to review what we would possibly look at, so
Yeah.
how are we gonna possibly? put that in?
Yeah, so
Discuss it.
I think the question is, what direction would we wanna give the county engineer on this issue? You know, and so it's.
So I mean, he's given us an estimate of $150,000 to $200,000, correct?
Plus another right of way cost, yeah.
No, that's if we went with the twin barrel.
No, the
No,
right of way was with the box.
Oh, the right of way was with
12
the-
by 6 box.
12 by 6,
So we'd need additional right of way there as well.
yes.
So conservatively 210,000.
And what would be, if we moved the gates down and created like a turnaround down in the end by the creek, what would that cost? I mean, there's a cost to doing anything, right? So,
I don't, the way the ditches are, I don't see creating any turnaround down by the creek.
so you have
So
what,
that's an
20-foot
issue.
roadway,
The
24
gates
foot?
were beyond the last driveway as you're northbound, which is where we could turn around and got those property owners access. So,
You just have to do a 3-point turnaround.
well,
I guess.
I think you just would plow down towards the gates and then you'd have to back up. I don't think there's room to turn the road there or around, it's up.
What about just moving the gates? How much of an effort is that?
Days work, I mean, less than a day, well, day's work,
It's a couple $1,000s.
yeah, a couple thousand tops. I mean, materials are mostly there.
Mm-hmm. What do we think about that?
Well, this, to me, I mean, there really isn't, you know, there's an issue down there now, right? And you don't have a silver bullet, there's no quick, easy fix. $200,000 or $210,000, and even putting in the 5-year plan, you know, the 5-year plan gets manipulated all the time because of disasters and other issues that pop their head up that we hadn't expected. You know, we have stuff that's been on the 5-year plan for a lot longer than 5 years. So that, you know, that may not be a short-term solution either. So the question is, do you invest some money, move the gates, make it as good as you can with what you are now, and then we talk to the engineer about looking at the impact on the 5-year plan of putting the project in.
I think that's a good idea. I'd rather go that route, so at least we have more time to prepare, but, you know, in the meantime, you know, we're able to at least address the 1,000 feet possibly, or have Keith and his team be able to go out and move those.
But the issue with moving the gates, as I would think about, Keith, is that you kind of have it by the last driveway, so you have the ability to get your motor graders turned around and stuff. So if you moved it down, that would be a challenge, or they would have to back down the road.
Well, let's start with the north set of gates. You know, we talked about moving them south so that Mr. Miller doesn't need, so nobody needs to pass through a gate. He did not want that, if you recall.
Right, because he's worried about illegal dumping.
Yeah. Whether that's truly an issue or not, illegal dumping goes on all over the county with and without gates.
Yeah.
The south side of gates, down closer to Mr. Holliday's, north of the Brisker, Hurlbutt property, can move them up there. I frankly, before I would move the gates, I would throw a culvert in there and unlock the gates and let people go through. And you can then hear from the people that are not sitting here, that think the road ought to be closed, that we hear from. And I'm not advocating for either side, but, and you might be sitting here 1 year from now saying that's working just fine because you haven't had the big storm. But you might hear from us in the spring that we have closed gates and locked them because culverts washed out.
It will work just fine until you have a flood or
Yeah.
heavy rain.
Until it doesn't.
Exactly.
And then that money you spent on that Band-Aid is
But it
gone.
may solve his problem for this winter.
The only way you would do that in my mind is to buy yourself a little bit of time if that's a necessary.
So,
But is that
Yeah,
Band-Aid
and-
10 grand or is that 50 grand?
Is what?
What does that Band-Aid cost?
That gentleman right there could probably help us with that answer.
so if you just threw a culvert in there, fill the road back in, restore it.
What would that cost?
We'll probably look at what we have in our yard. I'm going to, say $5 grand. I mean, there's more involved. The road's gonna have to get graded.
Gravel.
I don't know as it's gonna get any material put on it now with this close to winter. But I'm sure it's in need of all the above, but, it's a driveway now. It's not a road. But again, that works for a while, but I think you go right back to the experience in the last 50 years is constant plugging up, washing out.
Well-
Trying to maintain a piece of road in the swamp.
Can we put a couple of tubes in there and get it on your 5-year plan and then investigate more if it's feasible to put the box in?
You can't do anything. The challenge is what, how much money you wanna throw away to,
You're gonna have a hard time convincing me to put good money into bad. A really hard time.
yeah, that, I'm not, I don't tend to like, because you say 5K, but that's, that 5 comes into 10 by the time you grade it, get rock on it, get it all ready. I mean, it's gonna cost you $10,000 to open it up, and
And what do you gain when you do that?
Just
Getting this
me
holidays
getting
ability
out
to
this
go
winter
north.
would be the only issue. So, I'd rather see it fixed permanently, and I understand not throw money at that Band-Aid to, if it's feasible to do so.
yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just,
Okay,
stay
well then,
home a few more days this winter.
so let's just plan on leaving it the way
I'm
it
just
is.
curious, cause I'm a country kid, I've dealt with what you're dealing with many times throughout my life, and I'm just curious how many issues you have, on not being able to make that hill.
Last year was a pretty mild winter. It's just a half a dozen days that
A half a dozen?
Yeah, that I spun last winter. It's mainly when the snow comes down, because last year the county did a real good job of getting out there that morning.
I would have never guessed it would be a number near that high.
So,
When you say-
yeah, last year, but
It's a
we
steep
didn't
hill
have too
up there.
many snows over the
If you look at it, it is a steep
Are
hill.
you saying you
It is
didn't
on-
get
I
out,
see
or
it.
you just had?
No, that I spun and barely made it up a half a
It's a pretty
dozen
good, it's
times.
a pretty good.
Well, you know where I
You
grew
know,
up,
that's me
right?
and my wife, if she
So
has.
you're not gonna show me a
also-
steep hill.
Well,
We don't have them
still
in
go,
Iowa.
still go down
It's not
Cannon
all
Street.
straight, but if we have a winter
It's
where
just a
we're
good-
getting
it's a
snow
good-
every week and 4 or 6 inches of snow, it's
I went down there to look at it.
significantly more. Yeah, we don't know
Yeah,
what the
I
weather's
wouldn't
gonna be like.
I'm just remembering back from my personal experiences is all, and that just seems like an incredibly high number to me.
I said, they was there every day that it did snow, and with the Scarifier blade, kind of scratched the surface to where I could get some gravel, usually maneuver over and I could try to scratch it, and it made a big difference getting out. I mean, other than the effort that the county put toward last year, I mean, normally they were not there for maybe a day after the snow to really get that road done. And, so that helped my situation a lot. They didn't get there every day, just was.
You drive a 4-wheel drive?
No, I drive front-wheel drive vehicle, so I drive 45 miles to work every day. So, one way side, I want to four-wheel drive all the time.
Okay. So what is the pleasure of the board? I guess where I'm at on this is I think I'm not really ready to say I wanna give any direction. I think we have a lot of good ideas here. We've had some interesting discussion. I would like to have an idea, I don't know how we would do that, is what the impact on the 5-year plan would look like. When do you do that update to the 5-year plan? You have to certify that, is that,
Well, it has, the first year out, really, we do, it's part of the county budget.
right,
And you're frankly typically dealing with that before you choose to deal with the 5-year state one is due by March 15th.
yeah.
So, typically, so we're usually there January, February, whatever, whenever you're ready, we're talking about it.
And we're talking 1 year out in January, basically, when we talk with you on budget for the county engineer.
Well, it sounds like we need to get a little more information
What's
before we
the-
can make a decision.
Yeah, I'm not,
I'd also like to hear Doug's. I mean, Doug's got a unique expertise on this. I'd like to hear what he has to say on it too.
Yeah, I think Doug said he was the last guy out there replacing culverts. So are we all pretty much at the same point where the
Yeah, I
decision
mean-
we're prepared to make today is no decision, and
I think having the knowledge of knowing that the potential for whatever Keith has in the yard, I mean, that's an option, but it's only gonna be good possibly for this winter and then maybe into the spring, so I'm struggling with that as a, I mean.
As
all
a
it-
wise
all-
use of taxpayer
Yeah, all it
dollars.
is just a Band-Aid, and in all reality, if we can evaluate this, and I hate to say this, cause I know we wanted to get direction, but I think we'll have to evaluate it and then look at it, you know, discuss it potentially in the budget, and then see what it does affect us in the long term, or, you know, the only piece that I still am in my mind struggling is kind of where Scott talked about traffic use to the park, you know, emergency vehicles back and forth, you know, the fact that we've, you know, maintained this road. You know, I know that in the situation where, you know, Mr. Holliday, you know, lived there, it wasn't that, you know, he built on afterwards, that house was already there and that road was there, so, you know, do we maintain it, cost for not, you know, how much cost do we have already initially into it? So that's where I'm you know, I'm still kind of stuck in between, looking at saying, you know, how could we fix it right, but is it the best investment with what we do for the taxpayers' dollars? So I think I want to wait, and I think we should look at it after we have review with what other options we have, and possibly get Doug involvement a little bit on it, and under the discussion, kind of what Nathan is mentioning. So when do we review? We're going to go into budget starting in.
We usually start around mid-January, is when we have our actual budget deliberations. So we would be preparing all that, you know, like I said, like Keith said, the 5-year plan's kind of a living document.
And
We do
I
that.
also think that, you know, if Keith thinks that $10,000, if $10,000 is a Band-Aid for 5 years, that's not a Band-Aid. That's a good use versus me spending $200,000. But at the same time, is it gonna wash right out again? You know, I don't know.
It just depends on what the weather's.
I mean,
gonna
if you
do.
think about how much maintenance we're already doing, how much cost we've already had on staff going down there, you know, the fact that a yard or a grader has to go down there and turn around, those are all added costs versus just running straight through. So I'd like to wait, and I know that we had this on the agenda to give action to it, but I think that it's better if we do get some of that information, get some more accurate numbers on estimates.
Well, unfortunately, this isn't a problem that came up in a year, and it's not a problem we're gonna solve in a week, you know, so we're gonna have to figure it out. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to, you know, make the best possible decision for everybody and try to get this. So, I think what we'll do today then, just for,
We'll just table it. I'll motion to table
Well,
it.
we don't, it's not even
It's a discussion of
action
possible action, isn't it?
It's just
With
possible
direction.
action.
Oh, you're
So
right.
we just, that's our
I
direction.
think our direction is we're gonna move it for further deliberation within the budget concept and wait and get some feedback from Doug as well.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Holliday, for coming in.
Yep,
Thanks.
Thank you.
And thanks, Keith, for your input. Projects update, Keith?
The projects update, the paving or the parking paving at our office is essentially complete. There's maybe a few non-paving items to take care of. So that's a good thing, puts us more back to regular business there. And then G28, 231st Street, a lot of moving parts going on right now down there. Like I said, they had paved up to Lutheran Drives where it's a split, so currently PCI, the Prime, is prepping between Lutheran Drives and the east end, the end of the project. There's a stormwater intake to be rebuilt there. That's probably a couple days item that, again, we kind of outguessed the weather and the contractor. We don't think they'll probably start that with a little bit of rain in the forecast. If everything went perfectly, we could see paving the end of the week. There's 3 pours left, if you will, but there's only one mainline pour, and then there's the handwork connected up on either end. Brian, my one assistant, and PCI, they have been in contact with Lutheran Homes, Emergency Services. Most of the emergency services have opted to go around and come in from the west. They've been told that they can get in from the east, might have to move a barricade. That's just to keep, you know, everybody that doesn't belong that are on the, from being through there. But I think maybe one of them is opted to go in that way, but it's getting very close to having the major work items done, and the pavement marking folks came in last week and have painted from Burlington Road all the way to the west. From Burlington Road to the east, we'll see when pavement gets done and they're ready, but we're at the time of the year where the pavement marking might very well become temporary. We're doing durables on the other, and we might be getting into the time when it's getting too cold to do that. And so we'd paint a fast waterborne and finish it up, repaint it next spring. There's still work behind the paver with shoulders and such, but they're getting at that. And I mean, I drove the thing, don't recall which day, Friday. I drove it Friday. I mean, it looks really good from there to the west. So very close. Hopefully within a 2-week window here, we're connected up and people are going through and people will be a lot happier.
Good, great.
Well, I think you and your staff of the contractors have done a nice job of keeping it moving along, and I personally haven't received a whole lot of comments. I expected a lot of trouble on this one because it's a complicated, difficult project, and so I appreciate you and your staff and the work you put in.
Well, I want to call out particularly Brian Horshowski. He's the one that's on the job every day, tip of the arrow, if you will, and I mean, he takes a lot that you don't hear, and he's just done a fantastic job on kudos to Dennis Michael. He was the primary designer on a very complex project, and folks don't like construction if it's on the interstate or where it's at. It's the world we live in now. 10 minutes out of my way is unacceptable, but it is going to be a very nice facility when it's open and done. Yeah. Even had a complaint from Lutheran Homes because they were saw cutting the last pour late at night, from a resident, not from. But they set up there on the hill, but they were out there at night and they shouldn't have been out there. But if you know concrete, there is a time to saw cut it, and if you don't hit that window, you create a disaster. So. Yeah. And frankly, the last pour, the stuff's not curing as fast anymore. A little cooler in the nights and that. So, but all in all, happy with where we're at on a difficult project.
Good.
Keith, on your county office, are we having any issues or concerns with logistics with the sheriff's building in your project?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Good.
Good. Okay, anything else? Anything else for Keith? Keith, you have anything for the board?
No.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thanks.
Okay, item number 7 is discussion, possible action to approve the minutes of November 2nd, 2020 regular meeting.
So moved.
I have a motion by Nathan, second by Scott. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carries. Item 8 is correspondence. Santos, did you have any correspondence this week?
Just had a call on the Keokuk, and then I also had email correspondence requesting me to let the West Liberty City Administrator know when we passed our ordinance for our first reading on the utilities and county roads, just so she could share that with the West Liberty City Council, and so I followed up on that email.
Okay, very good.
That's all I had for correspondences.
Nathan?
I did not have any correspondence except to note that Emergency Director, Management Director Brian Wright emailed us all yesterday that some alarms went off on Fruitland. I was actually down there, I heard them, and it turned out it was just an equipment issue. No muss or fuss, so nobody should worry about it.
It actually was in West Liberty, and
Oh,
It was
in West
countywide,
Liberty.
it was
I believe.
countywide, because I
Okay.
was in West Liberty when it
Yeah.
was going off, and
All right.
I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
the emergency weather sirens activated, and it appears that he did issue, Brian did a nice job and issued a press release later in the day, and then had to reissue the press release. Originally was chalked up to human error, and then they find out, no, really what happened was one of the dispatch consoles had locked up, and that caused the activation of them. And so what they have, the vendors are on site or actively looking at the logs to see if they can figure out how that happened and why
Good
it
deal.
happened, so.
Good deal.
Thank
you to Brian for
Chris
that.
Jasper and Brian are on top of that, so.
Good.
Yeah, I had no other correspondence to note. Scott?
I had no other correspondence other than that as well.
How about committee reports, Scott?
I had no committees.
I had none either. Nathan?
0 for 3.
Santos?
Neither did I.
It's like something was going on last week. I
Nothing
don't know what
either.
it was, but
Okay. So then moving on to item number 10 are items with the administration office. Item 10 is discussion of possible decision regarding the disposition of a 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee.
We included a memo in your packet from
Yep.
Sherry about this. This is a vehicle that the previous county attorney bought with drug task force money. The current county attorney is not interested in keeping the vehicle for their department. We originally talked about him just donating it to the county, but because it was purchased with drug task force money, it has to be used for law enforcement purpose. So the solution that we came up with is that we purchase it, that the county purchase it from the county attorney's office. That money goes back into the drug task force fund, and then the county, we're recommending the county basically use it as a fleet vehicle. For the immediate time, we can have Eric Furness use it for the oversight that he's doing in terms of the couple projects we have going on. Future uses could include using it for people who have to go to training. General services may have some use for it at election time to help transport some of the election equipment that gets taken out to all the precincts and then brought back in after the election.
So our options would be to sell it, take the money, give it to the drug task force, or do as recommended, pull it in. And the book value is somewhere around $13,000, I think was the number.
Right, that's what we're recommending. The, off of JD Powers, the average trade-in is $12,675 and a clean trade-in is $13,675. So we kind of went between those two to come up with that $13,000 number. The county attorney is fine with that number.
Well, I've been an advocate for quite some time that the county should have some type of a motor pool that's managed by a professional and maintained. I think we really haven't addressed that whole fleet management issue, but I'm good with that. We could house that probably even at the maintenance area. We could have a spot over there. Or Eric could keep it out. I don't think that matters.
Right, for the time being, it probably would be with Eric most of the time, but after we complete the couple of projects that we have going now and we're having the design phase, we're not really anticipating there to be any big projects requiring oversight for a period of time. So it could become more of a fleet vehicle then, and if we do have another project come up, it would be available if needed.
is this a motion?
So
Yeah.
a motion by Nathan,
Yeah, I'll move to approve.
okay,
I'll second it.
and a second by Santos.
And I'd just like to thank the county attorney for looking for ways to cut unnecessary expenses and operate on a lean budget.
I would concur with that. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item B is an action to affirm appointment of Jennifer Davis as a medical examiner investigator for the Muscatine County.
So moved.
I have a motion by Nathan,
Second.
second by Scott.
Did we lose one? Yes.
We have one who,
Retiring, right?
pardon?
Is it Tom?
No,
retiring?
Tom's.
No,
probably more
Tom's still
active
with
now.
us. We have a person that's been one for quite a while who, needs to step away from it for a period of time because of other obligations that he has. So we're adding this one. If that person returns at some point, then we'll evaluate at that point whether we need to have both on staff.
Okay, great. Okay, any further discussion?
I'll move to approve.
I think I had Nathan and
Oh, my bad.
Scott
Yeah,
on there.
sorry.
Sorry. We could add a third, it's not just. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Anything else this morning, Nancy?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Item number 11 is to receive information from county employees. Any county employees wishing to share anything?
Brian's on the phone.
Brian, right? I see, we have Brian on the phone. Brian, did you have anything to share this morning?
Good morning, yes I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
For Muscatine County, for our COVID-19, we have 1,934 positive cases. Out of those, 1,183 have recovered. So estimated we're probably 751 cases in Muscatine County. Sadly, we have had an additional death, and our number now is at 60. Our Muscatine County Public School District, our percentage of positive analysis has gone up. It is now at 21.4%. Discussions that we've had with my office and with Trinity Muscatine Public Health, a lot of the outbreaks are among faculty. There are no long-term care facilities in Muscatine reporting any outbreaks at this time, as noted by the state's website. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, any other county employees?
Eric Furnace is on the line.
Sounds like we have Eric on the line. Eric, did you have something to share this morning?
Just a brief update on the sheriff's quarters project, if you're interested.
Please.
So they took delivery of the exterior insulated steel wall panels. They should commence with getting some of those on this week. The HVAC electrician was wrapping up their phased installation. Had a site visit Monday with Mike Nolan. A few little tweaks made here and there with some illuminating issues of flagpole, final location of flagpole replacement, the sign out front, the do-not-enter signs for the new driveways. I had to do some regrading in the topsoil along the south side of the building just to get better clearance between where the grade would be and the panels, but I think they're on schedule. Still continues to be a couple little issues with vendors, delivery trucks pulling in where they shouldn't, but it's helped that I'm right there. We get those resolved fairly quickly, so we're not blocking the sheriff's department. But all in all, I think it's moving forward well.
Okay, Eric, and you and I had a discussion last week about sidewalk. Have you had any update on that? You want to maybe share with the board with kind of what you found, what you're thinking, and where you are?
So when I looked at it, I thought maybe it was an opportune time to consider replacing that rear sidewalk. However, we got some initial numbers back that were considerably higher than even what I expected. I had a local contractor look at it, and his numbers were close to what the changeover would have been. It evaluated the actual use of that back sidewalk, as well as some alternatives that I think we have at our disposal. It's just not something that I'm recommending we move forward on. I think just based on where we're at in the budget and the lack of use of the majority of that sidewalk as it turns out. I don't see recommending it to you for a change order at this point. I am gonna still get a number on removing that one small radio tower, while Myers is on site. So we'll have a figure for you on that, but
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Maybe you should share the board what you found there, what that is, what we're talking about there.
yeah, I can send you an update on that. Just the total concrete replacement just was gonna be quite high, I think, given, but yeah. That's
Yeah,
no problem.
yeah, did you wanna mention that radio tower, what that's all about, Eric? I don't know that all the board members are aware.
On the back side of the building is just a smaller radio tower. This is not one of the large ones that we would see scattered around out in the county, some of which I think Matt Shook had taken down, some old towers. This is a smaller one, 30 to 40 feet, and then there's like a single antenna on the top of it. It has not been in use since dispatch moved out of that building. And so it would be very easy to have Myers cut it off and just lower it down. So we're gonna get a number on that.
So this was when we moved dispatch, when we did Muscom a number of years ago and left the sheriff's office. It was a tower for the old radio equipment, I would assume, Eric, and it's no longer in use, so it's probably a good idea to just get that down. And you're gonna get us,
It hasn't been in use for some time.
yeah, and you're gonna get us a change order, number on that, right?
Yes, yeah, I asked them to provide that when they provided me some concrete numbers to separate it out, but that was overlooked, so I specifically asked that they give me a figure on that, and I don't anticipate that'll be too high.
Okay. Anybody have anything else for Eric?
No.
Eric, did you have anything else for us?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Yeah, still
Okay.
questions I was gonna ask.
Eric,
Eric?
are you still there?
Yes,
Did you get the closing issue resolved?
can you say that again, please?
Did you get the closing issue resolved? The closing on the property?
No, I've not been advised that the two attorneys' office have been able to schedule that yet. They are still trying to come up with a date that works for both of them. So at this point, I don't think there's an issue.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Any other county employees out?
Only one thing about that radio tower at the sheriff's office, if for whatever reason we ever wanted to have a backup connection between the fiber, between the two buildings, we may wanna leave that pole there so that we can mount a wireless antenna to have between the buildings, just as a backup.
Between which buildings?
Between sheriff's
Public
office
safety?
and, department, or
County engineer.
secondary roads.
Secondary roads?
We have had that line cut one time, and so we had to scramble, and we mounted something on the sheriff's office, which was a little unsightly. So I'm just wanting to let you know that we may actually want to look at, having something there as a backup.
Okay, well, we'll get the number from Eric, and then I think we can maybe look at that a little closer and see. I don't know what the condition of the tower is.
It's usable, I believe.
Okay.
Because we've discussed this in the past with the sheriff, as to mounting something on there.
Okay. So today our primary service comes into the sheriff's office, and then we have a sub feed over to the county engineer fiber underground, and that's been disturbed in the past, so to keep them running you over, okay, I got it. All right. Any other county employees?
I just want to thank the auditor's office for a heck of a job over the last couple of months.
Thank you.
We didn't have any issues, which, at least not that I'm aware of. We'll canvass the official vote tomorrow, but, a lot of the country's still counting. They were done really quick. They handled things extremely well, and I'm really just want to thank them and praise everyone who was involved.
Yeah, and the feedback I got from constituents at the election, the polls, things were well organized. They felt safe and comfortable, and I think credit to the auditor and the staff for the fine job.
Yes.
Thanks, Nathan. Okay, next item on the agenda is to receive comments from the public. Do we have anyone from the public wishing to address the board this morning?
I haven't unmuted.
We have a couple of callers that have not unmuted.
One caller, the rest are county employees that if they want to speak on
Okay. Hearing no one?
I'd
Oh,
like to. I'd like
we
to.
have, Santos would like to make a comment.
We talked about, once we got the county building opened up, that we were gonna eventually look at either possibly in the next year or spring, putting Washington Street up for sale, or at least looking at possibly looking at getting rid of that property, knowing that we have no use for it. I've driven down there a few times, I still see some vehicles there. I know that, I had a conversation with Oscar at one time, asking him how much does he really utilize that building. I think there's some sheriff's trailers, miscellaneous things there, but in the end, for me, if we're not utilizing it and we can possibly put it up for sale or something, I'd like to put that on as a discussion piece for the future.
Yeah, thanks
action.
for bringing that up, Santos, because I think we had intended to do that and we got delayed with the opening of our maintenance facility.
Yeah.
So I think maybe Nancy, if we could ask Oscar to say, kind of what's the status of that and where are we? And then I think, we had some preliminary discussions with the city of Muscatine. That is a floodplain down there. And I don't think we want to encourage any development there, but the city of Muscatine, I think, has interest in it. That's their kind of lay down yard and for their public works, and they might be interested in that. So I think Nancy, I think you and I are scheduled to meet the city administrator this week.
Yes, on Thursday.
And maybe that'll be we could put that as a topic of
If nothing
conversation.
else, I think it could be up for sale. If it's not future development, I know there's a couple businesses down there that are still in that same area.
Yeah.
But if there's a way we could possibly get some revenue or something, I think it would be
Absolutely.
an option. I think I just feel that when I talked to Oscar about that, he had mentioned, give me a date and then I'll get whatever out I need. So it's, up to the board in a sense, if we say, hey, March 1st to get everything out, have everything moved, and then we could look
I
at
think
it.
part of our whole strategy was to eliminate
Yep,
that.
and that's really what I wanna make sure that we're on task, and then,
I'll follow up with Oscar and with Search and Rescue, and with the sheriff's office, who have
Yeah, I
had
didn't-
stuff
I
in
didn't
the
know who
other
was-
building.
Yeah, we may still have things, they use some storage in
Yep.
there, and we may need to wait for sheriff's quarters.
And I know
And
they
if
were
that's the
working on
case,
clearing that out, but I
and
have no
that's-
idea where they're
that's
at.
fine if we do, I just wanna make sure
We
we're
just need a
timing
date.
those correct, yeah.
Yep.
And then I wanted to just,
Okay.
thank all the veterans coming up for Veterans Day, is what I wanted to
Oh,
finish
yeah,
out.
11/11/11, so.
Correct, so I just wanted to make sure that we recognize that and for their service, I wanted to thank them. That's all I had.
Good, very good. Okay, hearing no other comments or anyone?
Eric had unmuted himself. I'm
Eric,
sorry.
did you have something you wanted to mention?
Nancy did mention it, but yeah, the sheriff is still using, their portion of the Washington Street facility. And the new addition does have a bay for the vehicle and the boat. So until the sheriff's quarters project is finished, I am quite confident they are going to be utilizing space down there on Washington Street.
Yeah,
And that's good, that's good to know, Eric, we just, if it's something that we propose that we put out in the early spring of next year, I just would like to make sure that we have, that on our agenda to discuss it and take action towards, potentially
Sure, yeah.
selling it or whatnot.
I just want to make sure you're taking into consideration the timing of the building there.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that, but I appreciate that, Eric, and then we'll just take that into consideration as we start taking our steps.
yep. Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, so hearing no others, meeting is adjourned.